I've been a filmmaker for the past 7.5 years, and I wanted to take a moment today and reflect on the past, see where I've come from, and fill you guys in on what I've been up to, and start this new chapter for this channel. So far, this channel's just been VHS style, we'll say, videos filmed on a little camcorder, and turned into a lot of just show footage from my time in LA. But I want it to be more, you know? I don't want to just like sit on it and put in the bare minimum effort, because that's kind of what the VHS format was for initially. I didn't want to have to worry about lighting and audio and all that. I kind of wanted just to be able to set up a camera and record, which I still want to do and keep that kind of spirit alive for this channel. But I do want to start doing more well-produced, lit videos and talk about my experience as a filmmaker and give you a little bit of behind the scenes on the projects that I've been working on and the things that I do every day. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint when I started becoming a filmmaker. I genuinely didn't start taking it serious until about 7.5 years ago. And that came in the form of directing music videos and things like that. But honestly, it started a lot earlier than that. To get to the start of when I wanted to start making films, I think we have to go all the way back to first or second grade. Second grade at the absolute oldest, because I remember what house I was living in at the time, and I moved halfway through the year through second grade. So I definitely kind of have an idea of when I started. But I just remember one year saving all of my Christmas money and going to Target and using that to buy my first little camcorder video camera. Had a little flip out screen on it. And I just remember taking action figures and playing with them in my room and filming and trying to make little movies and stuff like that. And honestly, I'd kill to get an SD card or have any of the footage from those days, but that's all that stuff is long gone as far as I know. But moving on from that age, I want to say shortly after that, maybe 2 or 3 years after getting that camera, I'd moved. I was in a whole new state. But whenever my cousins would come in, we'd always kind of like play or like act out kind of movies, which made me want to make movies more myself. But I remember writing this little Western movie. I don't remember exactly how it went. I just remember, I think it was like saving a damsel in distress, that sort of thing. And I just remember running upstairs before we were getting ready to film. I think we already had the special effects makeup and mustaches drawn on with markers and stuff like that. And I remember asking my mom, I was like, hey, like, we're trying to film this movie, right? And we want it to be as close to the actual real movies as possible. Can we swear so it's like the movies? And she's like, no. And I was like hurt, because like I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like, this has to work. Like, she's gonna let us do it. No, it did not work. So unfortunately, we could not swear. And I think I still do have some of the footage from this film. Hopefully it's here somewhere on the screen now. I'm gonna have to go digging for it, but I think it's somewhere on my mom's computer if I look hard enough. But that moved on to wanting to do, I think it was some sort of action film. I don't remember the plot at all. I just remember we had plans to throw a dummy over a banister. And this was also with my cousins. We brought all of our like fake guns and put electrical tape over the orange tips or spray painted them and stuff like that. And I'd brought clothes and newspaper to stuff to make a dummy so we could throw it over the edge. I don't have any of the script, if you could call it that, or any footage or anything from it, so I don't remember much about it. I just remember we were going to throw the dummy over, and I don't think that ended up working very well. But moving on, I kind of took a break from like wanting to be a filmmaker at that point to getting into YouTube and wanting to kind of be an influencer, commentary style YouTuber. And this honestly lasted for a while. I want to say I started this idea in like third grade. I did, other than just doing gaming videos, I did do a few skits and stuff like that. So I guess I started writing and still doing filmmaking adjacent things, just without directly doing filmmaking, or calling it that. And then that moved on to starting a new channel and wanting that to be very gaming focused. And I did that from about fifth grade all the way through sophomore to junior year was like my like transition period. And like through this, there was still some skits and all that, but it was really gaming centered and focused. And I started wanting to be a professional Call of Duty player. which turned into a few other games too that I bounced around from after that. But that was kind of how I got my start. And in 7th grade, I started streaming, which isn't technically related to filmmaking, but it kind of is, because I started playing Fortnite very early on and got affiliated on Twitch, and things were moving up. I was working really hard on it, and I started making some money. And I actually made enough to cover half of my first real camera when I bought that my sophomore year of high school. And before that, I was using a little Canon T3i that my aunt had given me just to learn how to take photos. And then I started doing little videos on it because I knew I wanted to kind of do vlogs. But really, I wanted to do cinematic vlogs, you know, as everyone loves to talk about now. And those vlogs weren't great looking back on them, but they begin to teach me the flow of filmmaking and shooting for an edit and all of that sort of stuff, which I guess I kind of glossed over it. I did start my editing with the gaming. I wanted to make competitive montages, or just really wanted to make sniping montages, if you're familiar with the Call of Duty community at all. But that taught me the basics of editing. I actually edited my first montage all in After Effects. And if you know anything about that, that is not what you want to do the editing in. That's just for the effects. Still, I did everything in After Effects and learned a lot about keyframing and color correction and glows and all this little stuff that would add on down the line and help me out. So the montages turned into vlogs, and then editing those vlogs and wanting to make the vlogs cinematic. So then I started looking up camera movements and better ways to improve on those in those areas, while I was still streaming and taking that serious at the same time. And then slowly, somewhere in there, I started to really get into music, and rap music specifically. This was back in probably the 2016, 2017 era. And I knew I really wanted to make music videos, but I didn't know any artists to actually make videos with. And this was kind of my problem. And I want to say early in my junior year, I started finding a few artists in town, but there was still like this go-to director that everyone would go to. I had no name or no experience behind me. So really it was a struggle. Everybody was like, well, we're just going to stick with the other guy and not give me a chance. So I didn't really know what to do. I just kept doing the gaming and all that until what would become my best friend at the time. I had only known him, I want to say, for about 3 months when he started making music and wanting to make music. And I had this exact microphone from streaming, and I had Audacity, which I think I'm actually recording this voiceover with. And we recorded his first song in my bedroom, and it wasn't very good. We never did anything with it. And then we did his first real song that ended up it was called She Cheated Again. We released it first, I think. I know video wise, we did a music video to one of his other songs first. There was like 2 that he did that were pretty solid. Both were remixes of Dax songs, I believe. You Should Have Known was the other one. That was the first video that I ended up doing with him. Like, all of this was recorded in my bedroom. We were just grinding, working together on this stuff. And then we recorded his first video basically in a parking lot lit by flashlights and car headlights. And my friend's car even died in the middle of the shoot. I think it was right at the end. Like, I'd pretty much just stopped recording and his headlights turned off, and we had to get his car jumped by some friends. And I think we even had like a creepy guy without a shirt on that came up and offered to help us jump the car, but we were kind of like, I think we're good. And this relationship continued. You know, we filmed that video, then we filmed for his song She Cheated Again, which absolutely blew up on SoundCloud at the time. Like, I think it was 2018, 2019, like right at the end of SoundCloud being the dominant force in the underground. And Dax was blowing up, so he did remixes to an artist that was very hot. So I think it was just the perfect storm. But his song She Cheated Again, I think now is at like 80,000 listens or something like that. And for a first song to ever release, like, that's insane. I just remember we put it out. In a week, it had like 2,000 views. The next week, it had like 15,000. The week after that, it was 30, 40. Like, it just kept growing. And so we were like, all right, we're taking this serious. You know, we're going to make this happen. This is what's meant to be. And we did that. That was our junior year. And I think we had about 3 videos filmed before I came up with the name Twisted Culture, which is kind of the brand that I always knew I wanted to start. Once I saw how Cole Bennett ran things with Lyrical Lemonade, that was a big inspiration for me, and why I wanted to get into music videos and everything like that, and truly showed me the art behind music videos and how creative you can actually get with it. But the biggest thing that he did was he built a platform to support artists that were smaller than him or even bigger than him, but being able to find an artist that he likes, work with them, and then they blow up and their whole careers changed. And that's what stood out to me the most about Lyrical Lemonade, and kind of what I wanted to replicate with Twisted Culture. And I knew I'd wanted to start this brand when I started doing music videos, but I think my first 3 videos were just released under my name, Wesley Dickin. When I was building Twisted Culture, I knew I wanted it to be like Lyrical Lemonade, but I still wanted it to be my own. And so I spent a lot of time trying to think of names and what rhymes and what's catchy and all that, and so many things back and forth and never coming up with anything. Until one day I was cutting the grass and the words twisted just popped into my head, and kind of thought about it for a second. I was like, twisted, that sounds good, but what do I pair it with? It can't just be on its own. And Twisted Culture came to mind like instantly. And I was like, no, that's cheesy. So I thought of some other ideas. I think Twisted Reality is what I came up with, and ended up writing that down in my notebook when I started drawing up a concept for the logo. And then halfway through drawing the logo, I was like, no, reality's not it. I erased it, wrote Twisted Culture, and then immediately texted my friend Adam, or Medusa, or Starkiller, whatever you want to call him. But I know him as Adam. And I texted him immediately, and I was like, hey, is Twisted Culture cheesy? He's like, no, that's perfect. And I was like, bet. So I finished the logo, sent it off to a designer, got it vectorized, and he kind of changed it and cleaned it up into what I was wanting at the time. And then since then, I've cleaned it up, changed some things, fixed up the colors, and made it into what it is today. And that was how Twisted Culture got its start. So once I had the brand, I think immediately I started working with my friend Zane, or XGM, at the time, and he actually has the first Twisted Culture video ever. And after working with Zane for a little bit, I started meeting some of his friends, started working with my friend Hezo. We worked a lot. There's a lot of videos on the Twisted Culture channel with him as well. And we were just making little run and gun videos. Like, I might have a little bit of a concept or an idea to run off of, and I might throw that in there. And slowly over time started writing treatments out and planning scenes and really planning effects and stuff like that, and being intentional with what I was shooting. And that was a big shift for me, because when I first started with music videos, I almost had this weird mindset that I didn't need to be a storyteller. I was like, well, if I make the video look good and put some cool effects on there, I don't need to tell stories. And this was so wrong. And it took me a little bit to realize that. But as I started writing more treatments, more stories kind of fell in naturally behind that. And I think my first real story-driven video was a rock video I did for a band called Sunflower Syndrome. That video is called Karma Escalate, and it's still one of my favorite videos to this day, because it forced me to kind of write a short film around the song. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of vocals and performance takes that I could like work off of and rely on as a crutch like I used to. So what this did was, in the past, it got me really good at shooting. I was really good at moving the camera and cutting things together to make it work, but I wasn't telling stories. So I wrote this Karma Escalade video as a short film, and it turned out that way. And I'm very, very proud of that video. And from that point on, I started like thinking like, all right, how can I tell a story? And this slowly developed. And as this was developing with the storytelling, I was also learning a free software called Blender. And this is something that I've kind of learned my whole life. I started in 5th or 6th grade, because I wanted to make video games. That kind of fell through, and I kind of got into it here and there over the years. Every few years, I'd pick it up and learn a little bit and then drop it. And then I met my friend Jesse Bitter, owner of Bittersweet Productions. And he was doing something very similar to me with Twisted Culture, with his own version of it, Bittersweet. And he was making music videos, building this platform up, but he was also using Blender and 3D animation within his videos, which is something I've always wanted to do. And I had been doing to a more simple degree within After Effects, because this is before After Effects had any sort of rendering or lighting with its 3D. It was a very basic, you can move a 2D PNG in 3D space, and I think maybe some very simple 3D objects, but don't quote me on that. And I was kind of under the mindset of, let me try to do as much as I can within After Effects without having to learn Blender. And that held me back for a little bit. But with meeting with Jesse and talking with him and just having good conversations, he eventually convinced me to get into Blender. And it really took me sitting down at his place, and he was just setting up a Blender scene, seeing how all the nodes were set up, textures and materials and stuff like that. And it all clicked for me. I was like, this makes so much sense. I think I can do this now. Went back home, worked on it, started incorporating it. And my first video with any sort of 3D came out through the Ratchet and Clank video. And this one just kind of used some Ratchet and Clank inspired effects and stuff like that, collecting junk for points. And then I threw in a really cool animation at the end to kind of build out the Twisted Culture universe that I was starting, which I won't even fully get into. I can explain this in a different episode. Essentially, I wanted to have this connected universe where all the stories in my music videos told one cohesive story together, and you'd have to watch them all and watch them in a certain order to get the full story of what was going on. And funny enough, my friend Jesse actually independently had the exact same idea that I had, and neither of us were really able to fully capitalize on it, unfortunately. It's just a big idea, and there's a lot of other things that goes into it. It's still something I'd like to work on in the future, but not something I'm counting on. But with 3D, I ended up doing the Ratchet and Clank video, and directly after that, I did the Matrix video, which is still my favorite video that I've ever done. It's got a Matrix theme, which is one of my favorite movies. It's probably the movie that made me want to make movies. It's got 3D animation, it's got storytelling, it's got some humor, it's got just well shot scenes and stuff like that. So it's got a little bit of everything, and that's kind of like my biggest project to date as far as what I've planned out, because unfortunately after that, I started focusing more on the business side of things. And if somebody couldn't afford the crazy fancy stuff, I would just suggest, okay, let's just do a run and gun, get going that way, and do something more simple. And I think that held me back in a lot of ways. And I kind of do wish that I went through and I was a little bit more intentional with it and did a few more of those like really, really story-driven videos. Like I still have a few treatment videos after the Matrix video that I'm very happy with, but I feel like I was on a very good hot streak with what I was doing. And if I just kept developing that a little bit more and not letting money hold me back, I feel like I'd be in a completely different spot. But what I did do when I was trying to figure out the business side is realize the area that I was in was not going to be as fruitful as I would hope. And I wasn't going to make money off of all these other artists that are also struggling just as hard as me, if not more. So I made the decision that I was going to move to Los Angeles, California, and start my business there. And after moving to LA, same sort of thing. I feel like I let money hold me back, and I should have just filmed a bunch of free videos first thing, which I did do. I filmed 2 free videos, which were running guns. I do wish I put a little bit more thought and effort into them. And there's a few other projects that I worked on that didn't come out or weren't fully me directing and shooting and editing everything. But from my time in LA, I developed so much as a filmmaker and learned so much and really figured out the direction that I want to take my career in the future. And this all started by randomly messaging a director that was shooting a short film in LA, or about 2 hours north of LA. And I saw that he was raising funds. I just randomly reached out to him. I said, hey, I just moved out here. I would love to help out in your project any way that I can. And he gave me a shot as a PA. I drove up north and I got so much good experience from that. I'm kind of a visual learner, so I had all the knowledge of the moving parts of a set and what that looks like from behind the scenes and stuff like that. But being able to see that in person and see all the departments working together and all the elements come together into one cohesive team and unit is really what I needed to give me the confidence to start working on these bigger sets and these bigger projects. And when I came home from working on this one weekend for this short film, Fresh Air, with a good friend of mine, Garrett Paul, I started hitting up production companies. I'm like, hey, like, do you need a production assistant? Just trying to get experience anywhere that I could. And really, I think the first company that I reached out to, being the Cinema Junkies, actually responded, saying that they have an internship program. And this production company specialized in camera cranes, motion control robots, RC cars, you kind of name it. And I learned a lot. I got to work on some bigger projects with actual budgets behind them, and ended up working on a Lil Baby music video actually before I left LA. As much as this production company helped me and got me onto these big productions, I feel like it held me back a little bit because after a while I was kind of relying on them to bring work to me, and I wasn't chasing work on my own or really focusing on my own work as much as I feel like I should have been at the time. So while I was working with this production company, I actually started working on my first short film, which I initially was going to do through a film club that the director of photography from that first short film, Fresh Air, invited me on to, asked me if I wanted to join, and at the end of a few months, you'd have a short film. And last minute, I decided I didn't want to do it. I decided, hey, I'm going to focus on my own thing, on my music videos and stuff like that, and try to make that work because I needed to prioritize it. Because at the time, I think I had about a month left of money anyway to stay out there. So within 5 minutes of turning this director of photography down for his short film club, one of my other director friends reached out to me and said, hey, there's this Jacob Owens horror short film contest. We should do it. And I thought about it for a second. I was like, I just turned this other thing down, but maybe this is the sign that I need to make my first short film and take that leap. And up to this point, I had written a few short films. I had them in the back, but I knew none of that was going to fit for this project. And part of the project, you had to write an original story for this contest. And it had to be based on some folklore, and there's a few other rules to work with. And we ended up writing my very first short film that I ever filmed, at least, called Elsabone. That directly translates to The Whistler. That kind of plays into it. That whole production is a story for another video. Pretty much everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong on that one. And there's too much to get into right now. But I learned a lot. I really did. And honestly, it was probably the most stressful week of my entire life, even to this day. But I don't regret it. It seriously helped me so much. And I took everything that I learned from working on the few short film projects with some friends in LA and applied them to my own project. And a few months after that, the fires hit LA, and I was kind of in between needing to find a new place to live, needing to find a roommate, and just trying to figure out if it's even feasible to stay out here anymore. But once the fires hit in January of 2025, any projects I had lined up got dropped completely. And I just made the executive decision that I need to get out of LA for now. It's just not the right time. And that was hard to do. You know, I'd come so far, worked so hard to get to where I was, and I was actually making progress and meeting the right people and getting into the right rooms, but it wasn't enough yet. And that's okay. And so I decided I was going to move back home for a little bit, which home had moved from Evansville, Indiana to Peoria, Illinois, very shortly after I moved to LA. So I was coming to a whole new city. I knew no one, and I was kind of on my own. And I got very lucky, and I got hired on at a local PBS station as a camera operator and eventually a technical director. So I was working on the switcher board and switching cameras on live shows. And through this, I got brought onto other little side productions that weren't in studio as a production assistant, and just got a lot of experience in the real world, in the TV world, actually, outside of film, which is similar but very different at the same time. And this has catapulted my skills and my knowledge base so fast. Like, I felt like I already knew a lot going into it, but just having shoots every couple times a week and getting to use the higher end equipment and higher end tripods and stuff like that has been so incredibly valuable over the past year and a couple months. Gotten to work on some great, incredible live shows. We film them like they're live. So it gives you this whole new perspective because you can't just stop recording and re-record and redo the take. Like, you have to nail your camera movements, your zooms, all live. Any mess ups get caught, you know? And so that was a whole new world for me. And I feel like I learned and progressed a lot as an operator in that time and got to see other people work and how they light and how they move and how they prefer things to be framed and stuff like that. So that was all very valuable to me. And during the time of working at this PBS station, I was also finishing up my first short film with Elsabone. But then I started writing my second short film, which was inspired by getting started as a DoorDash delivery driver. So within my first day or two of delivery driving, I had this little anxious thought in the back of my head, like, got taken to this sketchy alley, and I was like, hey, people could like really use this to like lure you out to somewhere remote and far away and then kill you. Cause like, I don't know, I got a little anxiety. I think it helps my writing. Anyway, I was like, that's an interesting concept. I should run with this. So I started like brainstorming and planning things out. And then I think I got like a really high paying order that did take me kind of far out. And I was like, hey, like this could work. So literally, I think within like a week after that, I had like 3 different like writing sessions to myself. And by the end of it, I had like the full outline, kind of the whole direction for the story. And I started writing the script. It didn't take me long to get a first draft together. And I tweaked it over the next few months. I really wanted to film it in that June or July, and just not waste any time with it. But honestly, I was kind of broke from all my time in LA. And my really only income was coming from door dashing and working at the station, which was very part-time and also minimum wage. So I knew I didn't want to film in Peoria because I didn't really know anybody here outside of the station, and I knew they kind of had their hands full as far as production goes. So I wanted to go back to Evansville because I had friends there that I knew I could either cast for parts of the short film or just get extra hands on set. So I went to a Facebook group for casting, put out a casting call, got quite a bit of responses and some video auditions, settled on my actors, and the shoot actually went really well. Like, we had our problems, of course, but no major hiccups, and it did go a little over, but honestly, we had shorter days than I'd planned for initially. So given the circumstances, I'm really happy with the 7-day shoot schedule that it came out to be, which is a little high for a 15-minute short. I will give you that. But I do think if we did full actual days of shooting, I think we could have done it in 3 to 4. So I'm very, very happy with how that turned out. I learned a lot on that production, and it also taught me that production doesn't have to be as stressful as my first short film, which again, I know you guys don't have much context to that since I haven't told that story yet, but I was a little worried that I was going to be just as stressed as the first one. And that was definitely not the case. I felt much better. Went so much smoother, and I had a great time on this project. And unfortunately, the edit for that project has taken a little bit longer than I would have liked. I started editing in early September of last year, and as of mid-June of 2026, I'm still working on it, but I'm on the final stretch. I'm finishing up sound design right now. Just need to get a last little mix on everything. A few small, very quick VFX shots that should not take me very long. And then maybe touching up the color grade on it a little bit, just with coming at it with fresh eyes and seeing what other look and feel I can get from the grade. So that does sound like quite a bit, but I'm hoping to have it done by the end of this month, which actually ends tomorrow. So maybe by the end of this week, because I am moving away from Peoria, Illinois in exactly a week from today. We're starting to pack up. That's partly why I wanted to record this, so I could get it recorded before I move, and then all my other videos will have a new background and it'll be hopefully better than this. So I'm moving in a week. I'll be moving to Louisville, Kentucky, which is where all of my family's from. It's where I go for every holiday and everything like that. So it's kind of like a second home to me. So I'm very excited to actually be able to call it home for the first time in my life. But moving there, I kind of have to rethink my future and what I plan on doing as a filmmaker. I'm leaving the PBS station, which is a little sad because I do really enjoy my work there and enjoy working with the people there. But all good things do have to come to a close, and I'm hoping to either find another job at the PBS station in Louisville or one of their other news stations, or they also have a lot of live events and sporting events and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to continue my camera operator career through that way, and then continue to develop myself as a director on my own time. And I think that's kind of where I'm getting to with my future as a filmmaker. I understand how hard it is to make it in this industry in general, and it's even harder to make it in this industry as a director, and let alone a successful director that's getting work consistently and not just struggling project to project. So I feel like I'm going to continue to do my own personal projects and push along myself as a director within narrative, music videos, especially music videos in Louisville. There is a pretty good music scene there from what I can tell, and some bigger artists like Jack Harlow and 2K Baby and Bryson Tiller. But there's also many other artists in that city that are extremely talented and making great music. So I'm looking forward to working with them, as well as being much closer to Evansville and working with a lot of my friends that I started with. So that's kind of my plan for the next few months. There's a lot of options for the future. Definitely staying open-minded moving forward, and gonna do my best to just grow into the best creative that I can be, the best leader that I can be, the best director that I can be, the best 3D artist that I can be, the best camera operator that I can be. Everything, because I truly love filmmaking and I truly love every single step of the process. A lot of my career was spent really focused on being a one-man band, figuring out every little step of the process so I don't have to rely on anybody else, and I can show a piece of work and say, hey, I made all of this start to finish. Every single aspect was me. And what I started to learn, especially with my time in LA and working with bigger crews and stuff like that, that's not how it works. That's not how the big productions work. That's not how you're going to work with the big artists on music videos. That's not how you're going to get the big feature film that's going to end up in theaters. You can't do it by yourself. I mean, yeah, sure, there's like the few people out there that have, and it's possible, but it holds you back a lot. And the biggest thing I think I've learned about filmmaking is it's a collaborative process, and it's the most fun when you're working with good people. It's the most creative because you have all these different minds working together on one common vision, one common goal. But the biggest thing is I don't regret trying to be the one-man band for that long. I feel like it's set me up so much for the future as far as just learning every single step of the process from pre-production to post. I'm such a better director now because I know the entire pre-production process and writing a treatment, putting together a pitch and pitching to a client. I've done all that. I know the shooting. I've literally handled all of the shooting and DP'd most of my own personal work. Even my last short film and the first one that I made, I DP'd those and chose all the lighting while still directing, which is not an easy task. If you've ever tried it, you know. And it's just a lot to manage at once, a million different things going on in your brain. And I think especially on my short film projects and this most recent one, that's the biggest thing I learned, because it was all me. Like crew wise, it was me, my assistant director, James, and I had help three out of the 7 days with my other friend, Jesse, who was supposed to be the assistant director, but his friend that he recommended to me ended up being the assistant director. He kind of just came on and took on that role without even me asking, and it helped a ton. James Jansen, thank you for your help on this project. I seriously do appreciate it. It is a lot to balance. And then especially pushing now into post and editing and stuff like that, it is nice having my hand on every single cut, every single decision made. But I do think it'd be a lot easier if I worked with an editor that was faster, that was a little bit more decisive than me, and might have some other ideas of how to cut a scene together. It might still be a little bit before I delegate out the editing on my own personal projects. I do still love that process, and I feel like it's very valuable, and you can get really creative, and the story is written again when you edit. I know I've heard that somewhere. I don't remember where, but that's absolutely true, you know? And especially valuable as a director starting out, knowing how to edit, because then you can think of the edit in your head as you're shooting, or you're like, okay, these are going to cut together, or no, I can't do this shot because it's going to look weird and kind of come out of nowhere in the edit, that sort of thing. So it's very, very important as a director to know that. And it's the same with the 3D animation and the VFX work. I feel like I'm a much better director because I've done that sort of work before, and I probably would still work with a VFX supervisor on a bigger project. That way I don't have to make all those decisions myself. And you just hire better people. Like, yeah, I know how to do it, but it doesn't mean I'm good at it, you know? And I do think I'm good at a lot of things, but let me hire the person who specializes in it and that's great at that, you know? And I think that's the portion of my career that I'm starting to move into, but I still haven't really worked with big crews or full crews as a director. Like I've worked on them as a piece of the puzzle, but not as the person actually putting the puzzle together, you know? And that's definitely my aim for my next few projects, music videos and narrative. Like I don't fully know what my next projects are. I know they're probably going to be music videos because I still need to finish the edit of the short film. I started writing another film. I don't know if that's going to be a short film or a feature yet. I'm leaning towards feature, but I'm just going to kind of write it and see where it takes me. But that one's going to be a little while to get through. And I still want to turn this most recent short film that I'm working on, Takeout Taxi, into a feature as well. I already have the outline for it. I just need to start writing pages. So those are like the next two narrative things coming up. I'll probably end up throwing a very short film in, like the 1 to 5 minute range sometime in the near future, hopefully before the end of the year, maybe, just to kind of keep working that muscle and building it up as much as possible so I don't go and start to lose some of my knowledge. But other than that, yeah, I'm just going to be focusing music videos, getting this short film to the finish line, and then also starting some YouTube content. I do want to go in and tell detailed stories about the short films, share whatever behind the scenes footage that I have from them, which is not much. I have a lot more from Takeout Taxi, but I get so caught up shooting and directing and wearing every other hat that I'm wearing that I always forget to do behind the scenes. So I'm going to try to be better about that in the future and hopefully bring a lot more filmmaking content to you guys. And if you want to see more from me or have any questions on anything that I talked about in the video today, please leave a comment and make suggestions and really start this community together. Because like all I want to do is just share my knowledge and my experiences as a filmmaker with others that have similar dreams and goals and aspirations, or people that just find film interesting. I don't want to sit here and act like I'm some voice of authority on the subject and that I'm some expert, because I'm definitely not. I'm still learning. I'm still going through the process of filmmaking, but I want to document it more, and I want to make more of an effort to actually work on the content side, partly just for myself so I can look back on it and show my kids one day what I was doing, but also to share it with the world. And maybe the right person at the right time finds one of my videos or finds one of my short films or some of my work and decides to take a chance on me and actually put some money behind a feature film or something like that. And that's what I'm really doing it for. Like, not only just to get funding or anything, don't get that idea, but I do want to help other people and share my experiences. And if it ends up helping to push somebody else's career forward, like so many of the other YouTubers and filmmakers that I've followed online, and that's kind of guided me and given me tips to get to where I am now, I'm hoping to do that for you as well. So if you did enjoy it, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. That's my little YouTuber bit. It's over. It's done. I'm trying to stay away from the cliches as much as possible. I'm not doing the "what's up, guys," because that's what I used to do. But yeah, if you enjoyed listening to my journey and the things that I've done up to this point and want to see where the future takes me, go ahead and subscribe. Follow along, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.